This is the post Chris Short stream. So welcome everyone. GitOps Guide to the Galaxy. I am Christian Hernandez. I will be your captain. So we have a passenger today. We have a passenger, no stranger to the show, no stranger to the stream. Scott Rigby from Weaveworks. Scott, give us a little introduction. Little hi. I mean, I know you've been on the stream, I think, more than anyone else, other guests. So you should be like a you're like a reoccurring character now. But
yeah, I guess I'm an OG. I guess I'm an OG now.
Yeah, you're an OG. Yeah. So, but those who haven't haven't caught your the other streams with you, give a brief introduction, what you do, what your role is at Weaveworks, upstream, all that good stuff. Resume.
All right, hi everyone. Yeah, I'm Scott Rigby. I'm on the developer experience team at a company called Weaveworks that you may have heard of if you're in the GitOps space. Excuse me. So I suppose I do developer advocacy and open source work. I help to maintain the Flux project. I do various things for that, including the community stuff, and I am a Helm maintainer as well. So I formerly co-maintained the stable and incubator repos that everyone used before we distributed those to Artifact Hub, the CNCF Artifact Hub. So and I'm on a team with really great people on both projects. So also I help now with the GitOps Working Group. Along with Dan and Leo, I'm a co-chair and one of the maintainers.
Yeah, which is it sounds like a lot of work, to be honest with you. It's like, I think Helm would be a just maintaining Helm would be a full-time job, but like you're like straddling both Helm and Flux. But I guess it kind of makes sense, right? With Flux being able to deploy Helm charts, right? Like it kind of makes sense that you're in both ecosystems.
It does, and to be very clear, like there's the teams that are on both are it's not like I'm very far from it being a solo thing in any way. I mean, that's like, I'm like, why do you guys even hang out with me? But but no, there's different things that I contribute and that we all contribute. And yes, the overlap between Helm and Flux definitely helps. I will say that I haven't contributed a lot to the Flux Helm controller in the year that I've been at Weaveworks. Interestingly, most of that has been Hida, who's just an incredible powerhouse behind that piece of the Flux ecosystem, and contributions by others too. But the goal is for me to step more into that role and help more there, as I'm also focusing more on the on the Helm SDK in Helm.
Yeah, I imagine it helps both sides, right? Where like you're trying to, like you're working on an issue in one project, and it's like this is not going to work well for the other one. That's can we, So I think it's good to kind of straddle both, a little bit. So I don't know about you, but my brain is still mush from last week. I don't think I've recovered from KubeCon. So it was interesting seeing everyone in 3D. I honestly, it was kind of weird, but it was kind of cool at the same time, and it felt familiar but strange. I don't know what your feeling was at KubeCon. Like, I live here, so I mean, you had to deal with jet lag too. So, but
yes, I felt like I was like really in Animal Crossing for real.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so real life Animal Crossing. So it was all the stuff leading up to KubeCon, and then KubeCon itself, and then there was for you guys had the GitOps one stop. So we're gonna get to those in a second. So, but I don't know about you, my brain has been mush, and finally today, Thursday, I finally started recovering from KubeCon and GitOpsCon. So I think next week you'll start recovering because you had the one stop thing. So I think this is a good segue. So GitOpsCon. So we for those of you who didn't know, we had our second ever GitOpsCon, and our first in person GitOpsCon here at KubeCon. It was a day zero event. It was absolutely fantastic. I had a great time. Um, Scott mentioned that he's in the Open GitOps Working Group, right? Where Open GitOps is um, um, a sandbox project, right? That a lot of vendors are taking a part of, and a lot of end users are taking part of. So we decided to come together, do GitOpsCon. The first one was great; it was online. Second one we did it in person at KubeCon. So GitOpsCon, right?
Yeah.
So what were your impressions of actually being there and actually walking into that room? It was kind of surreal for me. I mean, I don't want to make it dramatic or anything. I was like, wow, like we actually made this happen. So, what were your kind of
Yeah.
impressions that first
Yeah.
day?
Honestly, I'm really proud of the work
Mhm.
that everybody did. Like kudos to Dan Garfield, the co-host, along with me, and kudos to also you, Christian, who are on part of the GitOps Working Group,
Yep.
and all, all the other people. I mean, there are actually too many people to mention.
Yeah.
List right now, but we do actually have a list of those people, and we also have a list of the interested parties for the GitOps Working Group and Open GitOps. We're just in the middle of moving some of those files around a little bit to the CNCF App Delivery Technical Advisory Group's repo, and also to the Open GitOps GitHub repo as well. So right now, it's in the the files are really in those three places, but I expect that this or next week we should have those all in one spot. So that's all just to say thank you, essentially. And
Yeah.
where you can find, that's one of the places that you can find the thanks. I don't want to skip ahead to some of the other news that you have, but there are also a few other places we have thanks. When you get to those, I'll mention that there then. But I think your question was really, how did it feel?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I'm proud of the work that everybody did, and yeah, thanks for and including myself, I'm proud of that too. And it was nice that I think out of all the co-located events at KubeCon, we were told that GitOpsCon was the highest attended, the highest registered and attended.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Which was yeah. Well, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves, right? Yeah. But I mean, it was actually pretty nice too, because I was jumping back and forth at a lot of day zero events. It's but the last half I spent it all at GitOpsCon. It was really cool to be able to like walk in and like see all the people. Um it was pretty cool to be like there were at KubeCon it was not a lot of people registered, fully understand, it's
yeah,
traveling and with COVID and the situation and everything is we were built for maybe larger than the attendance was there, so there was a lot of empty chairs. GitOpsCon, there wasn't a lot of empty chairs. There was empty chairs, but not a lot. I mean, there was pretty well
no,
attended.
comparatively speaking, no. And
Yeah.
that was great. I will say that even the sessions that did have lower attendance in IRL, we're
Yeah.
also doing well. We're also doing very great too. I do want to note that, like, just for everyone who, if you haven't been following it, this this KubeCon and Cloud Native Con was the very first one that was hybrid. So also shout out to CNCF
Oh
and
yeah,
the team there.
definitely.
It's like, anyone can complain about when a little glitch happens, but I walked in there fully expecting it to be, not expecting it to be worse, because I know that they're great, like everyone's doing the best they can, but just at least anticipating the possibility that totally unknown things might happen, because this just isn't a format that any of us have really done much of yet, and certainly not at this scale.
Oh yeah, definitely. So 100% kudos. Shout out to Rachel, who was from the CNCF, who was helping us. She was fantastic, putting up with us from the Open GitOps Working Group, and helping us there. Talking about the event specifically, I want to know what your favorite talks. I wonder. I'll keep mine close to the vest and see if we have this similar favorite talks. So, like, what were your Like, what were your, or not necessarily favorite, ones that stood out, or maybe ones that surprised you?
Yeah, you're
In
pulling out the guns
GitOpsCon.
now.
Yeah, yeah. Heavy
Making
shooting here.
making friends, making enemies.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
I would say. So I was actually going to share the schedule,
Do it.
and now
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that. Can I send it in the private chat on this restream?
You can send it. Yeah, send it to me, and then I'll bump it over.
Okay. Okay. Great. Well, so for everyone, here is the schedule. Here was
Yeah.
the schedule, and my favorite. Oh my goodness. Okay. So there were some real. I mean, it was it was actually it was like an all-star cast. I mean, honestly,
It definitely was. Yeah.
there were really good talks that we could not include, like really, really great talks that like we really, really wanted to see that we could not include,
Yeah.
including a proposal by myself and Santochi,
Yes.
who I really wanted to see her speak. Not so much me,
So, yes.
but in any
So
case, yeah,
sorry to interrupt, but like,
yeah,
just so for everyone watching, like, we have a co-chair here, and me, that I'm part of the group. Like, our talks didn't even get
yeah.
picked. So like, everything is on the up and up. We always choose the best one, even if it's not ours. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely, no,
Uh,
absolutely. And the program committee like had a lot of debate on these. But in any case, I would say that the end user panel, the Tales from the Branches, was I don't want to say I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's one that I thought was super interesting because it's really speaking from the perspective of different end users. And it was a way to kind of, I'll say maybe, I don't know. Perhaps I'm just betraying my limited attention span, or maybe the fact that I also had to like do several things during the conference. But it was easier for me to be able to compare and contrast different processes and different, let's say, problems that various people had, and how they went about solving those, or what alternatives they tried before moving to GitOps, and then once they did move to GitOps, how they are currently implementing it. It was a lot easier for me to compare those in my mind because they're actually in a discursive setup on a panel.
yes.
Whereas
Yeah.
with all the other stuff, perhaps that I had to do, it wasn't quite as easy for me to. It's like it takes a little bit more mental processing for me to compare one person's amazing talk and how they do all those things with the next person maybe an hour or 4 hours later.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that.
That was a great talk, and not only a great title, by the way. So for those of you who are writing CFPs, the title does matter. Tales from the Branches, I think, is just a great title. But
Yeah.
besides that, what I really enjoyed about that talk specifically was Christopher Lane from Chick-fil-A and David Lewis from Starbucks. Like, they were from a similar similar. So they had like a lot of similarities, and you can kind of see, like,
Right.
wait, how do you do it? Well, how do you do it? And like, they were like, even on stage, they were kind of getting ideas from each other because they're from like, so similar backgrounds in that, like, they have stores all around.
Yeah, like excuse me, I'm probably not saying it right, but food retail.
Yeah, food, or like, I guess, yeah, food
Yeah,
retail. If you guys know the right name, please drop it in the chat. But yes, food retail, I'll go with that.
I don't know. It's not my Arab expertise. It probably should be,
Yeah.
but yeah, like I agree. And then we had let's see, we had May Large from State Farm, so that was really coming an end user that was coming from the insurance world and that side of the finance and insurance world, and then Mike Bowen from BlackRock. So we really. Sorry. Also, Cornelia Davis, now
Yes.
now at Amazon, formerly at Weaveworks. So that was a really well-rounded crew from different sectors.
Yeah, although all around, I think that was a great talk.
And Dan moderating. Dan, I think, did a really good job.
Oh,
You know,
Dan did fantastic. Yeah.
had some good questions, and but ultimately just kind of let the panelists do their thing and stepped in only when needed. So it just hats off to that too. But yeah,
Yes.
please watch the recording, everyone, because it's pretty fantastic one.
Yeah, someone in the chat, Stacy Porter, I think she's from Weaveworks. saying that declaring complexity by Emily Freeman. So I actually had a favorite talk, but now if she's bringing up Emily. By the way, Emily is a fantastic presenter. She did her talk. She pre-recorded her talk, right? So she pre-recorded because she couldn't make it to LA. So I think it's one thing to be like captivating like on stage live, right? That's in itself, I think it's hard to do, right? I endeavored to try to not make things boring, right? I always continue to try to improve. Emily Freeman, she can captivate you via video. Like I was sitting there and like I was as if it made me feel like she was actually there, and her presentation was fantastic as well. So that was another great presentation. My favorite, and it's gonna seem kind of weird where I'm looking through it. I want to get the name of it just right. Yes. So my favorite was a day in the life of GitOps platform team from the team from State Farm, right? So Maylard and I may be butchering this name. Priyanka Ravi.
Yeah, or you can just say Pinky.
Pinky, yes.
That's her sort of her moniker. I know there are several notable Priyankas in the cloud native world. So
yeah, oh yeah,
you with that.
Yeah, you got to gotta stay on brand, right? So your own personal brand. All right, so Pinky's brand. I'll stay on Pinky's brand. So okay. Pinky and May's presentation was fantastic, only because like they took you through the whole process of failing at first, and then what led to them to be an ultimate success, right? So it was kind of like, oh yeah, we messed up a lot, and this is the kind of stuff we did, and this is the kind of stuff that we did to fix it, right? So kind of like a like an RCA, right? Root cause analysis and what we did, and it was actually, and it's funny because I think it shows the power of GitOps just in general, because they're a small team. They're like a team of 3, maybe 4, right, from what I remember.
Yeah. Yep.
Taking care of a large deployment using GitOps. So I think it really speaks to the power of GitOps, and it it was just a fun presentation as well, right? They were energetic, and again, I like the energy that came out of that talk. It was really great to hear. The not only like the success part of it, but also the failure part of it as well.
Exactly. Exactly. Sorry, actually just replying to someone on Slack. So I'm like a multitasker. I don't know, a multitasker.
I know we all are multi-threaded. I mean, now, right? You have to take care of like 800 things at once.
You're not boring me. Christian. Seriously, it is great to hear failures. So I think that's why I think it was Sonia who came up with the Tales from the Branches twist instead of Tales from the Trenches. But in any case, it was a collaborative brainstorm effort. But I think that kind of it really sort of brings the spirit of this things got that, not only for that talk but others. There's also things that we can. I mean, even more so sometimes things we can learn by the problems people faced and how they did something in a way they would never recommend.
Yes. Well, and also again, tips for people writing CFPs, like failure talks. They automatically shoot on the top for whatever reason. After being a part of a few committees, right, CFP committees, it's like, hey, I failed and this is what I did. They automatically people love that. So just kind of a little hint that people like failure because it's like, I want to know what I should do if that happens to me, right? Like if because if it happens to one environment, it can happen to any environment. So, but it was really great just to hear their story, right? Coming from zero to GitOps, and that was just a fantastic story. So
I thought so too. And so we had 3 keynotes, right? Yeah. Like as well, in addition to that, right? So we had including Emily's. So. I'm glad you mentioned that because I loved that. I loved her talk. Oh my god.
Yes.
So good. Folks, please watch that. It was amazing. I really liked. I also liked your talk, Christian. By the way, Christian gave the other or one of the other keynote talks as a representative of Red Hat, basically just, you know how these things work. There are sponsors. So there
It
was,
was, yeah.
yeah, there are several.
Actually, if you know, those who are watching, the more sponsors that come, the bigger we can make this. So yeah,
Yeah.
we couldn't do it, like, you know, thanks to, like, you know, obviously Red Hat, but also Weaveworks, CodeFresh, HashiCorp, AWS,
Yep.
Amazon folks. They the sponsors help put this on, right? Because it's weren't for them, we wouldn't be able to have like all this talk. So
Yeah,
it was
we can always unconference it, you know, but even those,
uh-huh.
even unconferences require some sponsorships, even small, perhaps small ones, or
Yeah.
pooling. But it definitely helps. I mean, this is not a small section of,
Mhm.
you know, of cloud practices anymore, or IT practices. This is quickly becoming a standard. So,
Yep.
and by this I mean GitOps, and whatever folks want, other folks want to call it. Uh, it's certainly becoming, can't actually say a standard. There are standards coming around it through the GitOps Working Group that I think we're going to talk about next.
Mhm.
But ultimately, there are offerings in various cloud providers at this point that specifically, where they're specifically offering GitOps out for their customers because this is
Yeah.
something that people need, um, and want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it actually, you know, to your point, is it is definitely a good segue to our next topic is, you know, GitOpsCon. It was great to see everyone there. It was great to hear the stories. Um, and even with this hangover, we're gonna do it again in the EU. We're gonna do it again in the EU. So I I'm already sighing because it's like, man, that was a lot of work. All right, get ready to do it again. But we're gonna do it again. So for those of you who were in EMEA, that couldn't make it here in person, we're gonna do it in person again. So, you know, hopefully, we need to start planning that. So we'll figure that out sometime next week. But GitOpsCon, was there was a big announcement there around the OpenShift GitOps and OpenShift GitOps Working Group. It was the the Open GitOps. Everything with open, we need to stop doing things with open. There's so many acronyms. But anyway, the Open GitOps Principles version 1 was released. So can you talk a little bit about the blood, sweat, and tears that went behind getting version 1 up and running? Maybe we can maybe just talk about what those principles are.
Oh hell yes, I can. Also, am I allowed to share my screen
Yes.
or share
Do it.
my browser? Can I do that?
Let's try it out. So um for those who don't know, we're trying this new
Oh,
life after Chris short sort of thing. So we're if you'll please excuse a little, yeah.
thanks, Bosco.
And-
Okay,
yeah.
we our amazing tech support staff, streaming staff
Yeah.
have helped. Okay, so I'm going
Yeah,
to.
it looks like you can't because it's crossed out, but you can click on it.
Yes, correct. I'm going to do a window here. Please let me know if you see a hall of mirrors of me presenting myself, presenting myself, presenting myself.
Present, yes, there you go.
Okay, great.
Yes.
All right, that's what I wanted to do. You know, just inspire. Oh, I don't know.
Can you make it a little bigger? Can you control
Yeah,
plus that a little bit?
didn't want to inspire existential dread just then, but okay, hang on a second.
Yeah. Existential dread. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, is that better?
Yes. For me, it is. I don't know if any of you watching can tell us to make it bigger or not. You can go ahead and I'll interrupt you if you
Okay,
need to
folks.
make it
Yeah,
bigger.
just let me know, or everyone, let me know.
Yeah.
So basically, yes, Open GitOps has, well, just I will go. I'll
Start
go.
from the beginning. Start from the beginning.
Yeah, I'll
Let's
go
get
right.
the whole
From the
spiel.
beginning.
Get the whole spiel, right? Like you've studied the spiel. I'm pretty sure you have it memorized by now. So just do the whole spiel. I'm pretend I don't know it. Yeah.
Exactly. Go till the end and then stop. Yeah. So
Yeah.
in short, this was summarized in our release notes. So first, I'll show you. Ultimately, on this website, the very first question you'll see is, "What is OpenGitOps?" So I'll just tell you, it is a set of open source standards, best practices, and community-focused education to help. Wow, this is cool. To help organizers adopt a structured, standardized approach. Blah blah. Okay. Approach to implementing GitOps. Yeah, so OpenGitOps is a CNCF sandbox project that is part of the the CNCF App Delivery Technical Advisory Group. So for those of you who don't know, in short, they used to be called SIGs, or Special Interest Groups, named after the SIGs in Kubernetes. They've now changed a little bit in format, otherwise the same. But if you're interested, check that thread out on its own. But now they're tags, technical advisory groups. So the app delivery tag. Working groups, since you've heard about this thing called the GitOps Working Group, working groups within the CNCF are meant to be short-lived groups, however long or short means, just only long enough to fulfill their goals, that are all within a technical advisory group. So in the case of the GitOps Working Group, the GitOps Working Group is below the app delivery, the CNCF app delivery tag, if that makes sense. If it doesn't to you, you can read up on it or ping us, and we'll send you more info. But I hope that helps a little bit. And some folks have been asking, well, how does OpenGitOps and the GitOps Working Group relate? Is OpenGitOps the new GitOps Working Group, etc.? The answer is sort of.
Like everything, it's complex.
Yeah. So but because of what I said about being short-lived, GitOps as a methodology and a set of principles and practices built on those principles is not meant to be short-lived. This is something that is being built as a lasting standard. Now, things may change over time. It probably will, but we needed a place for things that relate to GitOps that can be seen as an official home for things within the world of GitOps. And so, since the CNCF, the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, has been ultimately adopting, you could say, adopting the GitOps Working Group within the app delivery tag, and adopting OpenGitOps as a sandbox project. That's the sandbox project is the place where any lasting documents, programs, and any possible code, like for interoperability between tools or whatever else, will live. And so right now, I'll show you very quickly. In fact, I'll scroll all the way down just to so you can easily see how you get to this. The OpenGitOps GitHub repo is open-GitOps for now. If anyone knows who name squatted OpenGitOps, all one word, please let us know and be nice and reach out to us, because we have been trying to work with GitHub, also one of the sponsors of the GitOps Working Groups, to resolve that. In any case, there's a dash for now. But you can go, I mean, whatever. But you can go to basically the project repo is the entry point, and it gives you information about what the different repositories within OpenGitOps are for. So I hope that's fairly clear. Yeah, I just realized we have to update these links. In any case, so the documents repo is, well, sorry, just to be clear. So things like governance and other documents are still within the GitOps Working Group repo. Like I mentioned at the beginning, we are moving those here. Contributing and other files that are default community files that are supported by GitHub, we have within a .github repo, which is what they recommend. So it all integrates with your, if you want to look at the etc. Look at the various files that are for community support. They all work, and the website is here. The website is in this repo for those who want to contribute to the website, the OpenGitOps.dev website we were just looking at.
By the way, that's all in README. So if you guys have a PR, or you want to post a blog, or you want to make a change, it's all in README. So you don't have to. It's minimal coding, right? So even
exactly, and it's set up to be fairly easy for folks to contribute to. So yes, that's actually another note from the events committee within the GitOps Working Group. events like, for example, this one we're doing right now would have been really nice for me to open a PR for that. Maybe I'll just do that retroactively, Christian.
Yes, retroactively. Yes, right.
Yeah, but it does actually on the website list past events right here. So and on the events tab. So yeah, so that's actually a good call to action for everyone. But to stay, to stay on track with this, the the place where you want to go to see the current documents and what was just published is the documents repo. So this README is fairly clear about what it is. Basically, right now, the documents only hold the principles and a glossary to accompany those principles. So just one quick note is that we use release branching. So because we want these to be essentially printable,
Yeah.
So if you go to the current release, there are pre-releases. If you go to the current release 1.0.0 and click on principles, you'll actually see right at the very top it's v1.0.0. And if you go to if you click to the glossary, it's also v1.0.0. But if you are on the main branch, there's really just a version placeholder to make it very clear that this is something that is a project that folks are contributing to, and you can too. But once those contributions happen between versions, no one will look at this page and be confused that that what's in the actual tagged version isn't what is stated up above, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like GitOps, right? That's the desired version is a specific tag that you
Yeah, exactly.
that you deploy, right? So
exactly, and if you want to learn more about the GitOps Working Group and OpenGitOps, that pretty much all of these repos, including this one, will say it outright what the relationship is. So if you came in a little late for me describing that before, you can just get it there. But this is the fancy thing right here: releases. There's one non-pre-release, a full release.
Look at
so,
that.
Yay! This was really
Yeah.
a lot of work for over 6 months by people from
That list is huge. I don't know if
oh
it's
my God.
in that release, but everyone who contributed, that's a big
I want
list.
to say at the very least, whether it's asynchronously or in person, is something like 60 different organizations. And there were very, very active members who are in a somewhat shorter list, and those are all listed down here. So when you go to the 1.0.0 release under github.com open-gitops/documents, if you go to the v1.0.0 release, there's a very short change log between this and the last release candidate. And there's a few little introductions, but basically it's clear that this is the first full release of the principles in the glossary by the GitOps Working Group, and the attribution list of the folks who have contributed to this is here. So it's in alphabetical order by last name. So it's also in Git fashion, we do give proper co-authorship. So you'll actually see on the homepage as well that it will show a list of contributors. I think we need to link up people's actual email addresses so that once you click into contributors, you see them, but they're actually here. And one thing I want to point your attention to is at the very beginning, there's also special thanks here to all the interested parties from the initial GitOps Working Group sign-up list. And really, it's true. This line saying your continued support and involvement are critical for this community initiative, that is completely true. If it were really just a few people, wouldn't be much of a standard, would it? So yeah, so you can definitely go to this list, and there are open pull requests for folks to add themselves to this list that are in progress right now, just kind of on hold because of KubeCon.
Yes, KubeCon. So what I really liked about the principles, and I think Dan he tells this story, and I think it's really great, and I think it really highlights the principles themselves. Is there was a talk where people say where they started with, "Hey, how many of you are doing GitOps today?" And I was like, 60% of the people raised their hand. They did the presentation. All right, how many of you are actually doing GitOps? And there was like 3 people, right? I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Which I mean, it's not. So I think what I really like of the principles is that it's really a guide, right, for those who really want to do GitOps. It's not meant to be like a gatekeeper, or it's not meant to be like, this is the club and you're out of it sort of thing. It's meant to be really more of, hey, if you really really want to do GitOps, and if you want to be in this, if you I want to avoid to use this term, but I'll use it. If you want to use like an industry standard GitOps, right, or like what the standard is, I think this is a great vendor
Yeah.
neutral kind of guiding principles of what needs to happen in order to truly do GitOps, right? Because
Yep.
it's like I always say it's much more than infrastructure as code, and as you always point out, it's like it's much more than a bunch of webhooks, right? So,
Mhm. Mhm.
can you
Maybe,
quickly
maybe,
go over
yeah.
like the four, like just the principles and kind of like what they mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. I was just thinking maybe I should have done that first, but hopefully you'll all forgive me for not doing that. But we can do it now.
No, community.
So
Yeah, no, community is important, because if
yeah,
people, so the one thing I say, if you don't like what we're saying, then I mean, come and join the community and make your voice heard, right? So
exactly,
it's all
exactly.
there. It's all there for you to for you to PR.
Yeah, yeah. Yes. So don't let the simplicity of these fool you. Kind of in haiku fashion, these were meticulously worked over the past 6 months. Sometimes going back to the drawing board when certain directions didn't really suss out. And there are also a couple of open um, discussions about extending these principles, but this is the 1.0 version. So this is exactly what you see in GitHub right here, or at least on the v1.0.0. So, but I'll just show this screen because it's a little cooler to look at. At least
Yeah.
I hope so. For accessibility purposes, if somebody has a better idea about colors and other support, just let us know. But in any case, the very first principle, and one thing that is actually not on here that I should make sure that we clarify is that for the GitOps principles, this is the very first introduction. I think it's super important. It's 2 sentences. GitOps is a set of principles for operating and managing software systems. This note is important. The principles are derived from modern software operations, but are also rooted in pre-existing, widely adopted best practices. So one of the things we're attempting to boil down here, everyone, is really, excuse me, where Git managed operations falls within the entire timeline of IT operations and best practices. So this is not just some folks have been saying, well, is this new? This isn't new. Well, yeah, no, it's not completely new. There are only certain things that when fit together create the principles that we know of as GitOps now, and that's something that now the entire community is aligned on. So the desired state of a GitOps managed system must be declarative. So that's the first principle. Basically, like your entire system from end to end, ideally, should be able to be written in declarations. This really follows up on the principles that Kubernetes was founded on, and
Mhm.
what the authors of Kubernetes attempted to accomplish, which Brendan Burns just discussed in the One Stop Shop yesterday. So
Mhm.
it's very, very interesting to see how GitOps is a kind of evolution of Kubernetes declarative goals. But ultimately, at this point, the way it extends is that you're not only your clusters, but if you're even whether you're on Kubernetes or not, your system that's managed by GitOps to the degree that it is, and the pieces of it that are hopefully the whole thing, you have to make sure that if let's say in the case of disaster recovery, or even just scaling up multiple versions of that thing, one version should be indistinguishable from the next. And we make that fairly clear in the glossary. I don't want to go over all of the pieces of it right now, but this is an example of what I was just saying, that it should.
Yeah, I think, and I remember being part of this process. Is I think the glossary was almost I think, more important than the actual principles themselves, because it's like, well, what do you mean by declarative, or what do you mean
Yeah.
by system? It's like, well, yeah, we should probably define those terms,
Yeah.
because sometimes some terms are overloaded, right? And it's like, well, we mean it in a specific way. So that was another thing, kind of another behind the scenes, is like the glossary was pretty important, and that was um in a big supporting factor in some of these principles. So
Exactly. Yeah, and I'm glad you said that. Okay, so that's really, I hope that makes sense that, like, in order to move ahead, your whole system and everything that's running should be able to be expressed declaratively. So when folks are just connecting infrastructure as code with GitOps and wondering how they relate, this is how they relate. Principle one of Principle one of the GitOps principles is essentially infrastructure as code. You could kind of say that. The second principle is that your desired state should be versioned and immutable. So it's really important that however you store it, and let's be clear, we're making sure that this is a set of principles, so it has to be quite neutral. You're not forced to use Git with GitOps. It happens to be the most popular version, way of doing it. That's where it got its name. But literally any system that enforces immutability, versioning, and keeps the entire audit log or the complete version history, as long as it satisfies these criteria in the the state store, it is acceptable as a GitOps storage state store. So there are examples of storage S3
yeah,
compatible
like
storage buckets.
S3, yeah, because S3 it'll fit. It fits that model.
Yeah,
SVN, I guess you could do SVN ops, right?
yeah, sure.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and the thing is, it's clear if you go to that definition in storage. There's one note that I should draw your attention to. I don't want to bore you all by talking so much about this, but I just want to. It's important to say this that oops, sorry, where is it? Okay, in all cases of any type of storage system for GitOps storage, or desired state store, the state stores need to be properly configured, and certain precautions have to be taken in order to comply with the requirements set out in the principles, in the GitOps principles. So, for example, even using Git out of the box doesn't mean you're using GitOps. It also doesn't mean that if you're using Git, it's automatically qualifies as a state store in line with GitOps principles. For example, if you are using a cloud managed Git system, or a Git, say, provider that that gives you options to protect your branches, and gives you options, let's say, to protect your tags or to make sure that your tags are immutable, or whatever it is that you're doing, however it is that you set up your structure for GitOps, then if you're not choosing those options, you're not really setting it up well to be immutable. Same with object storage buckets, like S3 compatible ones, or any object storage bucket that's supported, right? By whatever tool you're using. I mean, if you don't set those up to be versioned, and most of them do allow versioning, allow versioning as configuration, and have other things that help with immutability. If you don't do that, then it's versioned, but they're not immutable. So be cautious there, because I think the reason for that is pretty obvious. If you want a single source of truth and you want a complete audit log, well, you need to make sure that they match.
It has to be immutable, yeah. And a lot of people don't know, like, so a mutation of your desired state it even applies when you're trying to roll back, right? Because technically speaking, you're rolling back, you're still rolling forward, right? It's still it's still a mutation of whatever that old desired state was. So it's I think version and immutable together, I think that's, I completely, not to toot your own horn, right? But it's like completely agree, right? It's
yeah.
I helped write them, but I agree, obviously.
You did, and like very, very good contributions. And basically, each of the principles so far are meant to really express one idea, and this is the only one that uses really two kind of words, but really they're just ways to describe a dependable, basically a trustworthy storage system. So, okay, then the third principle is that desired state should be pulled automatically. There is some debate about this because folks can also do pushes as well with most tools, and that's also supported and completely fine. Not just fine, but it's also very valuable at times to speed up certain processes. But, excuse me, the point is that there are software agents, and for those that don't know what I'm talking about by an agent, in Kubernetes land, that's, let's say, a controller is an agent, or really any software that's running, any kind of daemonized software or whatever, that's running on your system that has agency to do things, certain things. In this case, at the very least, agency to access your desired state from wherever you store it. They have to be able to do that at any time. And so it doesn't just happen when you do some action, like I changed my configuration or run or rerun a CI job or something like that. Those agents have to have agency to do that on their own. And the reason for that is that one of the big values of GitOps, besides I had mentioned disaster recovery and other things like that, are that your system may drift for other reasons besides that you yourself have made some kind of a move, an intentional or unintentional move. There could be problems with networking. There could be problems in similar fashion to what Kubernetes does with automatic healing, of resources, etc. Since GitOps can outline your entire system, including your cluster itself and your workloads running on it, the agents that are responsible for the next principle, they have to first know what you want to be done. And so they have to be able to, in order to heal those things, in order to meet your desired state by itself, it can't just depend on you to pull a lever. So that's a very important one.
Yeah, and I think pulled is less of a of how the action happens and more of like how I get my declarations, right? So like we're talking about pulling in terms of, because you can set up a system to either push out reach out and make those changes, or the agent sitting on the actual system that's being managed, and then it manages itself. It's less about that, like a pull push control system is more of I'm pulling my declarations. It's more of being able to reach out and get those declarations.
Yeah, we actually debated using the word accessed automatically and a few other different options, but somehow this seemed to be very valuable because no matter what we wrote before, there's still kind of people just skim over these things, right?
Yeah.
And it's this so far anyway has stood the short test of time with the group, that it seems to always bring up this question about, wait a sec, can't we just push, can't we just run a CI job? So every single time Principle 3 comes up, we're almost always contrasting it to traditional CI/CD methods.
Yeah.
So that's super important. The last one is that the desired state is continuously reconciled. So this is the thing that most of you are aware of and probably think about when you think about GitOps, that it's always doing it. There are whatever agents, they may or may not be the exact same agents that are pulling your declarations, but they have access to those, and they are continuously checking the actual system against what you say you want your desired state of that system to be, and they're attempting to apply that on their own.
On their own, yes.
Yeah, and so please check some of these glossary items, because I don't want to go over time or miss some of the other things we promised we'd talk about. But at the very least, you can really get into a lot of great detail here.
You can really geek out on it too. So
you can geek out, and there's a lot more coming. Is the other thing it's important to note is that we have also a lot of other documents that were temporarily put on hold because they depend on these foundational principles. Yep. And it was only as of a few days before KubeCon that the 1.0 version released. So we're now going to, I guess, the next task of the working group in the OpenGitOps project, and you, hopefully, dear audience members or dear participants who are interested in this and want to show up to these meetings and or contribute asynchronously, like some people can't, for instance, go in person for time zone reasons and other reasons, maybe geolocation reasons. There are different ways that you can contribute, and we'll tell you about that at the end. And please, please do, because your voice matters here.
Yeah. So, and I think to close this out, I think Dan, I was always trying to find a good metaphor, right? I always use the metaphor of like me, noticing the bathroom being dirty, and then me telling my kids to clean it versus telling them to keep the bathroom clean continuously. But that was kind of complex. But that was kind of complex. I think Dan did a perfect job of saying it's really like a thermostat, right? Instead of like me sitting here, oh, I feel warm, let me turn on the air. You just set the thermostat to your desired state, and it'll turn on and off, and the feedback loop, all of that. So like, if you guys, technically speaking, your thermostat is GitOps compliant, so which is kind of cool.
Yeah. If for example you wrote your desired temperature and checked it into a version controlled system,
that's right.
There you go.
Yeah, there you
go. One thing to note is that if anyone is interested in that topic, I think it's too much for us to get into right now. But you can. There is discussion about to what degree a closed loop can be seen as a principle of GitOps as opposed to an
best practice. Yeah,
an important best practice. So there's an open, I think it's an open PR or open pull request, or it's an open issue.
Yeah.
So someone said air ops.
Air ops, yeah. So it's.
I'm just skimming the comments. You all are so funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So please join in on that, because it's not something that's important at this very moment, or it's important, but it's not. There's no critical timeline on it. But it could potentially make its way into a future release of the principles. Is the talk about a closed loop and a system that is intelligent and uses feedback from its past runs and from the system itself.
Yeah,
definitely. Like a thermostat.
Yes, like a thermostat, exactly. So over the last few minutes here that we have, by the way, great conversation. It's always great conversation with you, Scott. We have the one-stop event that happened yesterday, I believe, that Weaveworks put together, but it was people from all over the place, from Microsoft, Red Hat, Amazon, AWS, all kinds of folks took part. I don't know how you had the energy for it, because my brain was so mush, but
yeah, it was
a great
crazy.
Presentation. Yeah,
it was.
So can you talk a little bit about the one stop?
My bad. Yes. I just wanted to make sure that these people were also like acknowledged, or the companies like. So yeah, it was AWS, Red Hat, Microsoft, Weaveworks, VMware, and D2IQ. So these are all major providers, and we were just psyched to have you all. We had let's see. Let me just throw the links here to GitOps. Well, I can also just say GitOpsDays.com. You can go there and get the same information. But if you want to just click a link, maybe someone can paste that in the channel. And is it worth sharing my screen again, or is it better to just say
might as well.
All right. I mean, I'll give it a shot. I don't want to take extra time, but let's just try it one more time here. So window. Dun dun dun. Did it work? There we go. Can you see my screen?
Let me see here. I see it. Yes.
Okay. Great. Yeah. So this was yesterday, as evidenced by this date, and you can read about this stuff. Essentially, it's the goal of this here ultimately is to showcase the different cloud providers who offer GitOps services. There are a lot of other companies who offer GitOps services. There are a lot of let's say hosted products and projects. There are, for example, like I'll just say, for example, CodeFresh, right? Also provides a GitOps service. I don't believe they're a cloud provider, if I'm saying that right. Dan, kill me if I'm wrong. But
Yes.
but in
Yeah.
any case, there are a
Sorry,
lot
Dan.
yeah, there are a lot of services. There are a lot of services out there that relate to GitOps now, and because people need it and people are using it. But these are cloud providers who really the idea is you can run Kubernetes anywhere, and you should be able to run GitOps anywhere. And if you do, you don't really. The idea here is, of course, they all want to compete for your business, but you can pick and choose. You know, you can choose what works for you, which features of those products and whatever else you use to make your decisions you can go with, but you don't have to use whether or not. Excuse me, you do not have to choose whether or not to use GitOps. And one note about this, I just want to be very clear here because I'm also representing as a chair of the vendor-neutral GitOps Working Group. I do work for Weaveworks, and Weaveworks organized this event with these other cloud providers. And to that end, the primary focus was on the Flux tool, because that's the tool that these cloud providers are using to deliver GitOps and are building it as the understructure of their tooling. It doesn't mean that other tools aren't useful as well. So, but this is the primary focus of this one.
What was really cool is I put a link in the chat. There was a talk given by one of our architects, Andrew Block. He did one about Flux and OpenShift. So whenever the recordings go up, make sure to check that out. Yes, that's the one. I posted that link, so the links will be there. And yeah, check out any of those. So
yeah, it was it was a really great talk. Ihor's intro was great. Brendan Burns' closing keynote was fantastic. I mean, like, they're just
Pinky was there. Look at that. Pinky was there
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to call out every single one of these people. We can't do that in 3 minutes, and be able to tell you how to participate in OpenGitOps moving forward. But this was a really good event. Recordings are going up if they're not already. I probably should know that. Yeah. But yeah, please check it out.
Yeah. So we're about at time. So for the last minute or two, because there's another show coming up from up behind us. Really quick, what's the best way to get involved with OpenGitOps?
Yes. So on the releases page that I linked before, there's there's basically just a 2 bullet line saying how to get involved, and this is the same thing as I believe it's the same thing as on the OpenGitOps README. But in any case, the OpenGitOps documents repo that I mentioned is probably the one that you want to start and watch, because that's where that's where the lasting documents are. If you care about the website changes or things that relate directly to the project itself as an overall CNCF project, feel free to obviously star and or watch those too. But you really want to make sure to do that on the OpenGitOps documents repo. Also, inside of the contributing document, right now in the GitOps Working Group, and we're going to be moving this again to the tag to the app delivery tag. But here's the high level of things you need to know. Right now, the working group still meets every other Wednesday at 1800 GMT. So whatever that is for you in your time zone. Every other Wednesday is not yesterday, but it will be this. It was Wednesday during KubeCon, and it'll be the next Wednesday. So join us next Wednesday. There's a link to the agenda and notes document, which anybody can contribute to. Please do. If you have something to say or ask or anything like that, just put your name there and say, "Here's my question," or "Here's my request," or "Here's my idea." There's also YouTube playlists for all the recordings and previous meetings. Now they are being updated, so they're a little behind, but we've had a lot of them. So please bear with us. And if you're interested in a particular one sooner than later, let us know and we'll try to prioritize that. And then the other way is you can be part of a committee within the GitOps Working Group. There are different focuses. There's events. Yeah, I'm sorry. We're at the top of the hour, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, just real quick, I put it in the chat. Reach us at CNCF Slack as well. That's probably just holler at us. We're all there. So, yep. So we're at the top of the hour. Thank you, Scott. Thank you for all that information. Yeah, we'll see you around. Get involved, and thank you for joining. So also special thanks to John here, who was in the background helping us do all this stuff. Yeah, I'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, and in the words of Christian, if it's not committed to Git, it's only a rumor.
It's only a rumor. Yeah, I should close the show out either way. Thank you. All right, everyone. Cheers.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to another episode.
Working on OpenShift
And sometimes we haven't.
This is so
we
awesome.
are an open culture that
It's
believes
actually
in
a
the
big
importance of
piece of the component for your GitOps work.
Everybody has something that they can say.
on top of the Red Hat portfolio.